A third member of the Proud Boys convicted for his role in the January 6 riots has been sentenced to prison.
Dominic Pezzola received a 10-year prison sentence in court today.
Pezzola was found guilty of obstructing an official proceeding and assaulting police, among other charges. He was tried with 4 other Proud Boy members who were convicted of seditious conspiracy and other serious felonies. Yesterday, Joseph Biggs was sentenced to 17 years behind bars and Zachary Rail to 15 years. Jurors also found Proud Boy members Ethan Nordin and Enrique Terrio guilty of seditious conspiracy earlier this year. Nordin will be sentenced today, and Terrio will be sentenced next week.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now from outside of the U.S. District Courthouse in Washington. So, Scott, Dominic Pezzola was found not guilty of seditious conspiracy, but the 4 other Proud Boys tried alongside him were. Why was his case different from theirs?
Dominic Pezzola's case was somewhat different, but really part of this larger group, which is a landmark case in this largest ever federal prosecution in America. This group of Proud Boys, all of whom were convicted of some form of conspiracy, were accused of plotting and planning January 6th, of being architects and leaders of the mob. That's one reason why this is a seminal moment in this prosecution. But what happened in court as this afternoon began is another reason. Dominic Pezzola, who was convicted of lesser federal charges, was nevertheless sentenced to 10 years in prison. Pezzola, as he asked for leniency in court today, told the judge that he's giving up politics, that he was getting out of the world of far-right groups and politics and wanted to go home to his family. He got 10 years at sentencing, and after the judge walked out, Pezzola stood up, lifted his fist, and yelled, "Trump won," and then walked out with the marshals to go begin serving his sentence. It's indicative of so many other cases I've watched, Lana, where I've seen defendants cry, express remorse, show sorrow at their sentencing hearings, then walk out of the courthouse if they're free, or phone out of the jailhouse if they're not, and continue their arguments about baseless claims of the election and claim Trump won and that they've been wronged by the criminal justice system. This is indicative of cases, not much of an exception, to a degree more of a rule.
Scott, these are long sentences that they'll be serving, but in the case of Pezzola, Biggs, and Real, their sentences are roughly half the length of the terms that were sought by the Justice Department. What do we make of that?
The judge explained that. Judge Tim Kelly said he believes these cases are serious, and he believes 10 to 15 to 17 years in prison is a pretty serious prison sentence. But he says the terrorism enhancements that were added into the recommendations at sentencing by the prosecutors and agreed upon by the court overstate the intent of the defendants. The judge says the terrorism enhancement indicates an intent for mass casualties or mass attack by defendants. And he says this was not the equivalent of somebody trying to blow up a building or join a terror group on the battlefield. He says they're serious cases, but ones in which the terror enhancement's not an easy or perfect fit, which is why he's departing downward. That being said, the judge acknowledged the significance of his downward departure. He didn't depart slightly down. He went 50% of the government's recommendations and the federal sentencing guidelines, which begs a rather provocative question. Will the Department of Justice appeal these sentences to a higher level court, saying they're too lenient? The Department of Justice hasn't commented on that, but we know they've done that in other January 6 cases where they believe the sentence was too light.
Scott, I wonder, how might these January 6th convictions potentially impact the federal election interference case against former President Trump?
There's a common thread between these Proud Boys and conspiratorial cases and the charges that have been levied against Donald Trump. The Proud Boys were convicted of obstruction of an official proceeding, among other charges. 310 January 6 defendants have been charged with obstruction of an official proceeding, blocking that electoral count. So too has Donald Trump. Among the 4 charges he faces in this courthouse for a scheduled trial in March is that obstruction case. I've watched defendants get convicted or plead guilty to that singular charge and have recommendations of prison time on that charge alone. So it's worth monitoring those future obstruction cases and this rarer, but still relatively common, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding that so many January 6 defendants face, that Trump faces too. There are a lot of tea leaves to read as we move closer to whenever Donald Trump's trial begins, if in fact it does begin.